Hi, everybody. We'll talk about the program in a minute, but first we'd like to acknowledge the land that Toronto Metropolitan University is on, and where we do our work. And here's in our land acknowledgement. Toronto's in the Dish with One Spoon territory, and the Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and the Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. And I want to add on something to that is specific to our program. We're on land that gave rise to many stories from the lives and experiences of those who came before us. They had stories to tell, and they made sure they were told. And in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, let's reflect on our role, not only as inhabitants of this land, but as storytellers. Yeah, so that's where we are, and that's how we take the spirit of our land acknowledgement. Over to you, Elaine.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Agenda of tonight's session. We have a very short introduction, and Michael Kudash is going to continue with the program overview. I will continue with admissions and the funding. And the end, we have a QA session. All right, over to you, Michael.
Hi again. So obviously, I'm the program director currently, and I'll be going on sabbatical in starting in January for 6 months. And Michael Comfort will be taking over as graduate program director until spring of 2024. And if you get into the program and you're working with Michael, you're in excellent hands because he's the guy who came up with this program in the first place, and he's worked on it very hard in its inception, in its development, and now in its third year, going into its fourth year now of existence. So we've got Elaine, who you've met, who's fantastic, has been here for a few years from the start, and glad to have her back from maternity leave. Mauro, Chiara, and Tanisha Boyd, and Daniel, who you're seeing today, all make my life a lot easier, and yours too. So those are names you're going to get to know very well. And the graduate program director, even though you are the director of the program, we depend quite heavily on Elaine, Mauro, Tanisha, Daniel, and all the admin team to help us through your experience here in the MFA. Where are we located? Yeah, so the way that the school works is we've got Toronto Metropolitan University, which is the big entity that we are. And within that, there are numerous faculties. One of them is called the Creative School, and that's the faculty that we exist under. The Creative School has many schools under it. There are 9 undergraduate schools. There are, as you can see, 45 master's programs, 20 PhD programs, all within this Creative School faculty. The Yates School of Graduate Studies is where we fall under as well, which has its processes, its I don't know what you call it, your special place in the university as well. And yeah, so the great thing about being in the creative school, it's a wonderful ecosystem for not just learning with like-minded people, but it's an ecosystem where you can collaborate, cross-pollinate, and work with others from different places in a similar vein. The Image Arts School, School of Performance, and RT School of Media are really what the MFA is. Those are the 3 schools that the MFA is working with. But you've also got School of Journalism, you've got the School of Professional Communication, Graphic Design, Fashion, and we all get to gather every now and again and share ideas. So it's a wonderful place to be. And whenever students come into the program, I encourage them to look around the creative school for inspiration and partnerships. So here we go. Here's the course rollout. 9 courses total, really. We've got year 1 has the heaviest semester in the fall, 3 courses. Elements of scripted storytelling. I'm currently teaching that. And I torture you by making you write something in 12 weeks. How do you like that? We talk about the elements of scripted storytelling, but more from a doing it perspective. We go over concepts, certainly, but you pitch something and you write something from September until late November, early December. And we go over all the various aspects of scripted story design. Script analysis is a great course, SD 8011, because every writer doesn't just work on their own stuff. You get contracted to write things, you work on other people's projects, you story edit, all these kinds of things. And that course is really a way for you to maybe get out of your comfort zone a little bit, read other people's work, give notes on that, even if it's not in your wheelhouse. So that's really a part of the story design part of the MFA. 8012, SD 8012, research methods for script writing. Every master's program has to have a research methods course, and our approach to it is really obviously geared towards creative writing and script writing. And this course is really about how do you approach researching a story? How do you approach, let's say, a story that may not be from your cultural background? That happens a lot. And how do you define authorship in that situation? What makes you an authority to write a story based on something that may not be your own experience? Those are the kinds of the bigger questions we look at. The sort of nitty gritty of it is how to do qualitative research, not necessarily quantitative research, although that is a part of research, but really the qualitative aspects of research, talking to people, figuring out the dimensions of your story, very much geared towards script writing. In the winter semester, 2 courses, writing for visual media, which will have you iterate your story through various platforms, including gaming, webisodes, lots of different ways for you to become more nimble in the platforms that you write in. Then you go into acting and directing for writers, which is exactly that. You will be taught by an expert from the School of Performance on how to act, how to direct. It's a great way to get writers out of their comfort zone again and force you to move around, interact, and actually see how performing your scenes and your stories will actually impact the way they're written, because dialogue, motion, playing off the visual world, all those kinds of things are a big part, as you know, of writing for the screen. Thesis project happens in the spring semester. Yes, you do pay tuition in the spring and summer. You'll be working with your thesis advisor at that time. Our goal is to have you have an advisor confirmed by March, April of the winter term. And then as you go into the spring, summer, the goal is to get you to whatever project you're writing, to get you to a fully fleshed out outline by the end of the summer as you go into the fall term. And our next slide is year 2. Speaking of the fall term, you'll be taking graduate writing seminar currently taught by Michael Conford. And the reason why we like you to have your outline in a good place before you start that course is because that course is all about developing your script with your cohort as story editors and with Michael's guidance through 12 weeks of intense writing and rewriting and giving notes and feedback. Contemporary practices in script writing and story design is a course taught by our writer in residence. Currently, that's Adam Agoyan. He is finishing, sadly, his tenure as our writer in residence at the end of this month, but there will be someone else coming in to take that place, and that's really a place where a master writer will go over their process, use their work, their inspirations to help you see how they got to be where they were, where their voice came from, all those kinds of things. In the winter term of your final year, part 2 of the graduate writing seminar, currently taught by Leon Langworthy, and you'll continue your process from the fall. You'll fine-tune your scripts, you'll hone your writing on your thesis project, and it's a great way for you to move your projects forward as you go into the spring term where you're going to finish it. The other course that preps you for the real world is the Business of Script Writing and Story Design, taught by James Nadler right now, where you will learn about how to get an agent, how to finance something, how to navigate the world as an entrepreneur, because that's what most scriptwriters end up being. All those kinds of business aspects of how to get your work onto the screen somehow, or the stage, or other platforms. In the spring, thesis completion part 2, where you finish your thesis and you defend it over the course of the spring and summer. So it's a lot of work. In total, only 9 required courses, but there are electives that you can take. And you can take up to, I think, 3 electives, Elaine, or 2? Is it 2 electives you can take? Up to 11 courses total?
2, yeah.
Yeah. Without paying extra tuition. So you can take these 9 courses are your core courses. You can take 2 graduate level electives. I think you can take also some undergraduate levels of certain undergraduate courses of a certain level as an elective. So I would strongly encourage you to do that, not in the first semester of first year, because it's a lot of work, those 3 courses. So pick and choose wisely where you want to take those electives. There's lots of really cool electives in a lot of different schools in the creative school. That's another great part about being in the creative schools. You've got access to these electives that are really interesting and cool that could broaden your experience.
So Michael, I'm going to continue with admissions and the funding. And then I'm sure you have a lot of questions for Michael. Right after this, we will have Q&A session. All right.
Sounds good. Yeah, I wouldn't mind leaving a fair bit of time for Q&A. I know I kind of came up short on program overview, but I think a lot of what the questions will be about that. So let's.
Yeah, exactly. Michael introduced a little bit about Yale School of Graduate Studies. I'm going to repeat a little bit. YSGS oversees all the graduate programs at university. Once you are a graduate student at the program, you're part of the YSGS and also part of the creative school. And I'm sure most of you have already studied the YSGS website. They have a lot of information about admissions requirements and also funding, scholarships, and assistantship, all those information. YSGS also oversees admissions process and policies, promotions, and marketing for all the graduate programs. I'm sure you know the website. And then for general questions, for example, transcripts, English language proficiency, those type of questions, you can direct to Grad Help. And for the program specific questions, for example, statement of interest or creative written work, feel free to reach out to the program email address here. Let's talk about application process. It's a two-step process. Step one, you need to submit an application through the Ontario University Application Center. Basically, the application asks you for your personal information, status, all your academic backgrounds. Once you submit this information, it takes about 2 to 3 business days for the university to send you an email with information to how to create your online identity and the instructions of how to upload your required documents. First consideration deadline is January 19, 2024. This is for both international and domestic. We do also have a preferred deadline, December 10 this year for international. And the reason we have this deadline is based on past experience. We had many international students receive the offer, but couldn't receive a study permit in time to join us for the fall. And in this admission cycle, we have this deadline. Take advantage of this. And if you are an international student, I suggest you to submit your application by this date, just to make sure the community members can review your application right shortly after January 19. And that way, it's going to speed up the process and make sure you receive your study permit in time for the fall next year. Okay, admission requirements. I'm going to invite Michael to elaborate on all those details.
I'm going to talk about how to apply and what to have in your application. I just noticed this Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Sherry asked a question that we'll get to in the Q&A session, but that's kind of cool. I just wanted to point that out, that I've got it here on my screen and I can answer it later. It's about how many scripts you write in the program, and we'll get to that in a minute. So everyone wants to know, when I apply, what do I need to apply with? And it's pretty straightforward in terms of the list of what we've got. Obviously, your academic requirements for GPA are very clear. You need to have a B average to be considered for the program. Statement of interest. It's kind of a strange thing to say, a statement of interest. I like to describe it as, tell me why you want to be here in this program. What have you done in your life so far that will demonstrate that you've got not just the aptitude for it, but the passion for taking on a 2-year MFA in script writing and story design? You've got a resume that you can see will be submitted. That's the third one on the list. So that CV doesn't really come to life. It's nice to list your accomplishments and your experience, but make that resume come to life in the statement of interest. A lot of people wonder, well, I haven't really had anything produced, or, I've written some stand-up comedy or something like that. Does that count? Yes, of course it does. Anything that shows that you've written for a platform, that you've taken on some kind of script writing in your life. Undergraduate degrees in the area are obviously highly recommended. But we have students who've got undergraduate degrees that aren't directly connected to script writing and story design, but in their resumes and in their life experiences, and in sometimes even their professional lives, they've been hired to write scripts. They've written scripts. As I said, they've been maybe stand-up comedians. They've acted in plays. They've written plays. Whatever that experience is, tell us about it. What about it made you want to be in this program? What's your passion for this? And you know, be specific. And I think that's the best way to describe that statement of interest. In that statement of interest, it says, "What's your major writing project?" And a lot of people ask me, if I write that I want to do a feature based on this, am I stuck with that for the entire program? And the answer is no. The reason why we ask you to describe a major writing project that you want to take on for the MFA is to see if you've got an idea to do something. We're not going to hold you to it, but we want to make sure that you've thought about it, that you have an idea of what the story might be. Things change, grow, and evolve in this field, as you know, especially through the first semester of the program, because like I said, in elements of scripted story design, you're going to write something in that course. And you might come out of it in December and say, I think I'm going to change my thesis to this thing that I wrote in this course. Or you might have had an idea along the way, maybe into the holiday break or into early part of the winter term of your first year. You might have another idea. Totally fine. And I think it's almost somewhat expected in many ways to modify, change your major writing project. That's not saying you can't stick with what you said in your statement of interest, but I want to assure you that changing your mind in the fall term or early winter term is just fine with us. Yeah, what else is there? Future career objectives. Yeah, it's nice to know what you might want to do as a career. That's more a bellwether for us to see, do you have an idea of where you might land someday? We all know that future career objectives, you know, your 5-year plan, who knows what that means, especially in the uncertain times now for writers. By uncertain, I mean with all the new agreements that are out there with the writers guilds and ACTRA and things like that. Lots of things are changing, and we want to see that you've thought about it. This statement of interest includes your passion, but it also includes you demonstrating to us that you know about this field. You've done some reading and thinking about it. You're not just saying, "Gee, I'd really love to try writing a script sometime." I know that sounds silly, but we get that every now and again. The resume, as I mentioned before, is typical of a resume. Highlight your previous studies and experiences, showcase what makes you a good candidate. Letters of recommendation. We require 2. It does say academic is preferred. One could be professional. If you have 2 academic references, wonderful. They should speak to your writing ability. They should speak to your professionalism and your ability to do work in a university environment. If you want to include a professional reference, make sure that they are of a certain stature, that it will be as it'll be as significant as an academic reference letter. By that I mean, someone who's in the professional field may not necessarily be a household name, but someone who has done work in this field and can speak to your abilities as a writer, as a creator, that kind of thing. Please give your referees as much time as possible. Typically, there are seasons in the year when applications go in and requests for reference letters go out, and they kind of happen all at the same time. And everyone out there who's an academic like myself and Michael on the call will say, yes, please give us as much time as possible, because we've probably got 10 or 12 of these to do minimum at certain points of the year. So give people lots of time to get the reference letters in. Samples of work. This is a big one that gets lots of questions. So this is what we've listed as things that we want you to submit in your application as creative work. 1 script in theater, film, or video/television or equivalent script-based media format, web series, etc. When you look at 1 script and the next part says 2 samples of outlines. Well, we put the script at the top because it's great to see a finished script. It's not a lot of, if you have a finished feature, wonderful. I've had a lot of people say, well, I wrote a feature, but I'm not really happy with it. And our answer is typically, well, join the club. Where no one's ever happy with their writing until it's done. And even then, when it's produced, sometimes you're not happy with it either. Don't worry so much about how you feel about the script, but if it's a sample of your best work, and what you consider to be your voice, that's what's important to us. We do look for things like formatting, right, Michael? We want to make sure the format's correct. We want to make sure you know how to write a scene, that you know how to do all these things, because when you start the program, we do not start with here's how to write a scene, here's how to format a script. We want to make sure that whoever gets into the program is ready to go to enhance their voice at the start of the fall semester. So it is best to send in a script, I would say. That said, two samples of outlines or treatments will work as well. These show us that you know how to structure a story. And if you write a treatment in the proper format and an outline as well, although there are various formats for outlines and treatments, but if you do show that you know how to break down a story in that kind of form, that tells us a lot too about your abilities. We have one sample of a story outline or treatment plus a critical exploration of a character or a narrative style. You can probably tell by now that, you know, if you don't have a script that you think demonstrates your voice, or that you really don't want to submit, as you go down that list of samples, sample of an outline or treatment plus a critical exploration of a character or narrative style, that means that you have studied this form, that you know how to design a character, perhaps what genres are like, because that's really what narrative style means, right? That you know what genres mean, that you know how to design characters, plus a story outline. So all these samples really tell us that you have an aptitude for this kind of writing. I'm sure I'll get lots of questions about the sample of work, but that's kind of our overview on it. Michael, did I miss anything on that? Please feel free to jump in if I've.
No, sounds good. Sounds good, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sure you have a lot of questions, but just bear with me because I'm gonna go quickly with the exciting part about funding. But before I go with that, I just want to remind everyone, just follow up with your referees for the two references. If you upload all the required documents, but just make sure you follow up with those two as well, to make sure your application is complete. That way, graduate admissions are able to forward your application forward. Funding, we have two types of funding. Internal, external. On this page, we have internal funding. These three fundings we listed here are all based on your admissions application. You don't need to apply. The first one is Toronto Metropolitan Graduate Fellowship, value from 2,000 to 6,000. This is for domestic students. The second one is Toronto Metropolitan Graduate Development Award. This one is the same value from 2,000 to 6,000 for international students. And then we have one award, 12,000, is called Ontario Graduate Fellowship. All those you don't need to apply. We will use your admissions application. And when you are in the program, we also have some program awards. We will reach out to you when the application submissions are open. For external funding, we have two big ones. The first one is Ontario Graduate Scholarship, also called Ontario Med Graduate Scholarship, 15,000 a year. In order to be eligible, you need to have A- in each of the last 2 years of your studying. And this one, also we use your admissions application to apply. If you are eligible, we will reach out to you in February and March for a supplemental form, and we will have the results in May. This is such a big award. Again, once you have a good application, it's gonna help a lot for the chances to receive this scholarship. For the second one, Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council Canada Graduate Scholarship, short in SHRC, it's 17,500 value, same eligibility. You need to have a A- for each year of the last 2 years of your study. This one is reading deadline is coming up December 1st. You need to apply by yourself before even you submit applications to the program. If you are eligible, I suggest you to apply. It is 17,500. We're gonna send the link to the chat so you can check the application process. We have a lot of students in the first year when they haven't received application results from us, but they already received the SHIRK award. For those two scholarships, first year, the first one we use admissions application, but then in your second year, we will reach out to you if you are eligible, and we will have the info session to help you to submit an application and the help in the program to submit a strong application. And then we will brief you about the process as well. In addition to the two big awards, we have other type of funding and scholarship in the YSGS website. You can check out each one, and based on your eligibility, you can apply. In addition to the awards and the funding scholarship, and we also have a graduate assistantship or teaching assistantship on the TMU career site. Daniel is sending all the links to the chat so you can explore all the opportunities. I want to go back to talk about application deadline. It is January 19 for all of you guys, but for international, December 10. It does take about 2 to 3 business once you submit an application on OYAK website. Just want to remind you, the best practice is to submit your application now and then receive your online identity, to create your online identity, to have the instruction there once you have your applications and you are ready to go. The earlier, the better. For the reference, the process is once you submit your referees information, the graduate admissions will reach out to your referees with the email, a link, instructions how to submit a reference for you. That deadline is also January 19. So if you apply early, you give your referees enough time for them to write your reference. All right, so now it's time for Q&A. Feel free to type your questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Elaine. I've got 2 in the Q&A box already. I'll start with those, if that's okay. So Shari, am I saying it right? I hope. Yeah, thumbs up.
Yep.
Thank you. So you asked, how many scripts do we get to write as part of the coursework in 2 years? The answer is course dependent. Obviously, there's your thesis, which is the big one. But as I mentioned in SD 8010, Elements of Scripted Story Design, you're going to be writing one there from the ground up. Although one student has brought in something they were working on already. Script analysis, not really writing scripts in that one. However, in research methods, I know that the current instructor there has built that into the course, not necessarily writing full script, but certainly writing pitches and getting some groundwork done for a future script. Writing for visual media, yeah, you'll be writing several different scripts in different iterations in that, not necessarily something big long form, but you'll definitely be writing scripts in that program. Acting and directing, you'll be writing some scenes and some sequences in that, which may be based on other coursework, which may be original stuff you bring in. That you sort of start the process early in the first part of that course, and then you bring it, and then you sort of roll them out over the course of the 12 weeks. So there's writing in every course, and obviously your thesis is all about writing. Contemporary practices, it does depend on who's teaching it. I know that Adam has brought in an assignment where students are actually writing something not of a feature length nature, but something of a short film type nature, or a sequence that could be part of a larger script in that course. Graduate seminar, it's all about writing your thesis script, as is graduate seminar 2. Business of script writing and story design, probably not. You're not really diving into script work necessarily. You're really learning about the entrepreneur world and agents and financing and things like that. I don't really know what the tally is from what I've just said. I don't really have a number for you, but every course you'll be writing, pretty much every course you'll be writing some form of script or sequencing or scenes. Does that answer your question? Cool. Victor, Is there a required length for the samples of work? Do you accept scripts for short films? The answer is yes, we do accept scripts for short films. That's not really listed in the three categories. I mean, I would consider it. I would strongly urge you, if you have a short film script, to add something else as well. If you don't have another script, I would say find an outline or something, an outline or a treatment, and the short film would really help. Yeah, so the short answer is yes, we accept short films. Does that help? Good stuff. All right, answered that one. Austin, nice to see you again. I think you were at the earlier session, right? Yeah. What's the most important thing about your program you won't see on the website? It's the intensity of the writing process in the room. I have the mantra that there's nothing that you can't learn on the internet, right? So what's the value added of this MFA? Well, it's the fact that you're going to be in a pressure cooker. That's probably the wrong word. You're going to be in an intensive, collaborative, creative environment where there will be deadlines and there will be people who have a lot of great experience and a lot of great ability to give notes and help you develop your projects. So it does sort of say that on the website, that this is a place where you're going to really grow your voice and get lots of feedback and push your stories forward. But I would say, in this group right now, I would say that the thing that really sets this program apart is not just the ability to be writing all the time and getting feedback a lot on your stuff. Sorry, my camera went blurry. But also the fact that you're going to graduate from this program having exposure to a variety of platforms. It's going to make you nimble in the writing world. And that's really the way things are going. In Canada, it's been like that way for a long time. A writer who writes animation is writing comedy as well. A writer who's writing for drama is somehow trying to write games as well. So you'll have exposure to all these different kinds of things. That's what makes this program really distinct. Does that help? Anything to add to that, Austin?
Yes, thank you. That was very nice.
Thank you. Taylor, if I recall from the recorded info session, this program does not accept many international students. Good question. Is that still the case? We do have a range of students that we have a target to bring in every year. That's based on our program goals and our what's approved by not just the university, but by the province as well. And international students, we do have 3 in the program right now. That's actually a pretty high number. For various reasons. We typically look at getting 12 students from Ontario or Canada, 12 domestic students, and any students on top of that would be considered over our sort of domestic target. So this is kind of big words saying yes, we accept international students. Do we accept very many? The answer is no. So it's really it's a kind of a balancing act between the numbers of students that we want to bring in. And if there is room for international students, we certainly will bring them in. But it's not something that we have a set dedicated cap for. It depends on the year. But please apply. I mean, like I would say, don't err on the side of saying, well, Katan said it's probably not likely. Did that answer your question?
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Will, is it possible to submit a manuscript for a novel for the portfolio requirement? Are we able to turn the manuscript? No. The answer to the first question would be, I don't think that's going to tell us about your script writing ability. So I would urge you not to submit a novel. Why? Because they're very different forms. I have been asked this question many times, and I've worked in the industry for years, and we would option novels to adapt them into screenplays, and they're very different forms. Might be an excellent novel, might be a beautiful story, but it's really not going to help you on day one when we want you to write scenes if you don't have that experience. The second question, are we able to turn a manuscript of the novel into a screenplay? Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, with the whole novel question, I always say to people, well, Sarah Polley won the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay, right? And, it was adapted from something. It's, yeah. Does that help? I think, Will, yes. Okay, Maddie. Is it possible to apply for the SSHRC grant before sending in our program application? Elaine, is that they can do that, right? Anytime?
Yes.
Okay. The answer is yes.
They will actually have to apply before, because the deadline is December 1st. And so they have to apply basically now, get everything submitted, ready. They might get a response from the SSHRC institution probably in around May, June at that point. So hopefully by then you'll have a response from the program. And if not, don't worry about it. Hold on until you get a response. And then the award is not payable until the following fall anyway. But if you can apply now so that you get a chance to get the funds for the first year in the program. If not, you have a second opportunity in your second year.
Okay, thanks for that. Who's next? Anonymous participant. Hello, everyone. If I do not meet the minimum GPA, is it better that I do not apply, or do you think I have a shot if my other requirements, statement of interest and creative material, are strong? The minimum GPA it's important. I'm kind of the mind where if you're lower than a B, like what is that, B minus? Okay, that might be something that we would look at, and we have in the past. If you're in, I hate to sort of like splice it down the line, but if your GPA is in the C territory, it's not going to be the best competitive application, is what I would say. I mean, we do look at undergraduate performance as a part of you being successful in the program. So creative work, yeah, we really want that to be strong. We want the statement of interest to be strong. But we want to know that academically speaking, you will be able to take on the rigors of this program because it's pretty intense. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. And MJ, is the fall semester the only semester available? Is there an application date for winter? Only fall. We don't have a winter enrollment. So you have to start in the fall of the first year. Maddie, what kind of work opportunities exist for people in the midst of the program and post-graduation? If you know what they are, please tell me. That's my joke about that one. Kidding. We don't have a co-op program. We don't really have anything for script writing. But if you're thinking work opportunities like a GA or a TA, those are available in the creative school and in the university at large. So when I think of work opportunities, I think of that. You know, people in the middle of the program, you could earn money TAing another course. You could be a graduate assistant for a researcher in a program or in the faculty. Post-graduation, the work opportunities that exist are those that exist for script writers. They are many. They are writing scripts. They are story coordinating. They are story editing. All kinds of different iterations of what can you do in this field with the script writing knowledge. You can get into game writing, although the competition for those jobs are shooting up immensely. There's a lot of competition out there right now. I just had coffee with a former student of mine who created the Beaverton for CBC. And he said, yeah, there's my gesture. He said, yeah, it's really, right now is a difficult time. I mean, if you get into the MFA now, it's good because it'll be 2 years for everybody who's not been working for the past 6-8 months to get back into the field, and then things should settle down. So the opportunities are really, you will meet a lot of people. You will, I bring in guest speakers, by the way, outside of class time. I had Jeff Chan, producer, writer, director of Code 8 in last week. So you do get to meet people out there. You do get to sort of network a bit. We did have one internship at Marble Media, which was really cool. 3 of our graduate students in the MFA got internships there. And it was a fantastic work experience for them. We're going to try to keep that going if we can. It's a bit of a competition because students from other programs can actually apply for those. We were lucky enough to get 3 from last year's cohort into that internship. So the internships do crop up, but they can't really be counted on because you can imagine the script writing world. If you have an intern in the writer's room, there's a lot of IP, confidential IP that happens there. So it's very difficult to bring people in that aren't part of a project. Does that help answer the question, Maddie? I'll take that as a yes. Oh, there it is. Yes, thank you, Maddie. Lisa, how do you choose the professors for the course? Do you mean which faculty get to teach it? I'll tell you that part. Well, there are 9 of us who are the main core professors in the program, including Michael and myself. And these professors are those who've not only done this as a career, but we are the driving forces of script writing in the program and in the university. So we have 2 or 3 profs from the School of Performance. There's Michael, Leah from Image Arts. There's myself, James Nather from RTA. So we all are involved in teaching the courses. Not that we teach them all, but we tend to design them, we create them. And if we can't teach them, we hire part-time sessional instructors from outside. We really have been lucky in the last, well, since the program started, to have hired some incredible people: Alan McGee, Justine Garrett. Yeah, just some really incredible people. I mean, these people won Emmys, they've won CSAs. I mean, they're fantastic professionals and also excellent teachers. So that process is a hiring process where they apply for the course, and we hire them. Does that make sense? Thank you. Rosalind, would having a produced short film that is on a popular streaming platform help alongside a one-act play? My answer would be yes, absolutely. Send me the link, or include the link in your application, and send me the script. I want to see it on the page too. I'll watch it, but I'd like to see it on the page as well. I say that because I do want to see the form, the structure, the flow, the wording. I want to see all that stuff when I look at your application. Not that the finished short film won't tell me a lot about the story and your abilities, but I actually had a student say, well, we just kind of like workshopped a short film and it worked out somehow. And I'm like, okay, that's improv, which is great. It's a form on its own, but I want to see it on the page. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, that would be a great double thing to include in your application. Jack, 3 questions. In your first course, did you say we had 12 weeks to write something? Yes. Actually, you have more like 10 weeks, because week 1, I introduce, week 2, you pitch, week 3, off you go. And we work through the whole course together on that. Did I say I recommend 11 courses? I wouldn't say recommend. You have 9 core courses and you can take up to 11, 2 of those being electives. I mean, my personal recommendation is, why wouldn't you? You're in a program, you're in a great ecosystem. There's lots of really cool courses to choose from if you've got the time. You don't want to do it if you're overwhelmed, or if you have a full-time job, or if you've got lots of obligations, because your primary concern is to get your core courses, to work in your core courses. So I do recommend it, but the caveat being, if you have the time. Finally, in the sample work, what would you say is the preferred script length? Well, you've heard that old joke about how long should a table leg be? Long enough to reach the floor. Yeah, I know. You can write that down if you want. Amuse your friends at dinner parties. The real answer is, well, if you're writing a feature, what's the length of a feature? And if you don't know, then that tells me a lot. If you're writing a pilot for a 1-hour streaming show and you come in at 14 pages, I'm going to say, well, that's more like a web series length. So my answer is, go and look at scripts that are out there in the feature world, in the streaming pilot, in the streaming episodic world, in the scripted commercial television world, plays. Look at those, and that will tell you how long it should be. A play has a bit more leeway. A feature, if you're getting into 120, 130 pages, that's a little bit long. If you're writing a half-hour sitcom and you're into 45 pages and it's not formatted like a 3-camera sitcom, so here I can go on and on. The answer is, if you're worried about your page length, go find out other examples and compare your page length to in the form that you're writing to what you've done. Does that help? Like, there's no 90 pages, cut it off. Although at the CBC, when I worked there, if it's 90 to 95 pages, that's your movie of the week. If it's 97, forget it. We had to cut 2 pages. But there's a bit more leeway in the streaming world, obviously. Jack, how many students are accepted in the program per year? Our target is 11 to 14. And we like to accept 12 if I have our preference. So I would say you're looking at about 12 students per year. So not a lot. I know it's competitive, but that's the short answer for that. Will, is scriptment, coined by James Cameron, acceptable in the portfolio requirement or a screenplay? I think you mean like a treatment that's got elements of scripted writing in it. I mean, I would consider that more of a treatment and an outline. I think it's a treatment on its way to being a script. I would rather see a screenplay myself. If you've got a script and you've got a scriptment as well, go for it. But stalwarts like myself, we think, the whole purpose of seeing a script and reading it through is to see that you can carry whatever the treatment would have had through into the scripted form, if that makes sense to you. So certainly during development, you'll get these kinds of iterations, and people like Michael and I have seen this over the years where someone said, I'm just going to bust into dialogue here because I need to do it. Great, wonderful. But if you're using treatment in a script and you're not James Cameron, someone in the industry is going to say, okay, well, I guess you've summarized what's going to happen here, but I want to see it play out in dialogue and action and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my advice. I would say I'd rather see a screenplay, at least one. If you've got a short film, let's say, and a scriptment, send them both in. That'll give us a better view of what your capabilities are, if that helps. Taylor, is the hard deadline for international students December 10th, or is that recommended? Elaine, I think that December 10th is highly recommended, not the end. Is that right?
Yes, it's highly recommended. Yes. And also if and also we have the OGS, if you remember, that also we use your admissions application. So if you submit it early, that's where we get to read your application. And that's where also we can, if you're eligible, we use your application for scholarship competition. So you don't miss that opportunity.
Yeah, the short there is earlier the better, right?
The earlier the better.
The
Yes,
earlier the
Danielle?
better. Yeah. Apply early, apply often.
Yes.
Jack, in the online application stage, do we not need to submit any of the required documents, statement of not sure I understand the question, but I would say in the online application stage, that is when you submit everything. Is that what your question is?
Oh, I think I jump in on this one. I think is the two steps on the application
Oh,
process.
okay.
So step one, the application portal, you don't submit your statement of interest or CV or that kind of stuff. You only submit your academic information, your contact information, and the information for your referees for your letters of recommendation. And then that goes into the system, and then the university will send you an email with information about how to submit the rest of the documents, so your resume, your samples of work, etc. And then at the same time, they'll send an email to your referees so they can submit their letters of recommendation. So that's the part that you got to make sure to follow up with them so they get the email and it's not lost in their spam box or something like that, and they make sure they submit their items. And just a note on submitting, the system only accepts PDF format. So everything that you submit has to be PDF. So for those of you who are looking to submit a video or audio component, you have to submit it via a link, ideally a clickable link in the PDF, so the review committee can just click on it and it goes. But also make sure if it doesn't work, make sure to include the complete link so they can actually type it if needed. Because sometimes in the PDF, if it's not saved properly, the automatic clicking will disappear. And then if it just says click here, they can actually go to to view the film or whatever website you're submitting. So just a quick note on that.
Okay, thank you. That's the clarification I was looking for.
Thanks, Daniel. MJ, for the resume, I've written scripts and been in big theater performance projects in my undergraduate courses, but did not write anything outside formal settings. Is that good enough for the resume? The answer is yes. In fact, I would say most students who apply, their samples do come from maybe the scripted work that they've done in their undergraduate programs. Not to say that you can't submit things that weren't in formal settings, but that in no way impedes your application. Natalie, what are some tips you can give for writing, or perhaps some books to help us out? Oh boy, that's a half an hour to an hour conversation. Tips for writing. Make sure you tell people that to leave you alone for a certain amount of each day. Sorry, that's a joke. Tips for writing are numerous. Books I could recommend. I mean, anybody you talk to, Michael and I will have similar references. We'll probably have different ones as well. The Way of the Screenwriter is an excellent book by Amnon Bookbinder. The Scriptwriter's Bible is a good one, not just for formatting, but also tricks of the trade. Crafty TV writing, crafty film writing. The Art of Plotting by Linda Cowgill. I mean, there's so many out there. Yeah, I don't really feel comfortable giving you my short list right now because it's not really that short. Yeah. Jack, you mentioned adding something else. If we were to do a short script, would you recommend doing a character profile of that script? How long would that be, or does it depend? I would knee-jerk reaction here. I'd say make the character profile something else besides the script that I'm going to be reading, because if I'm reading the script, I should be able to figure out who the character is by reading the script. And if I read the profile, I might just be going, yeah, that's right. So it doesn't really seem like a separate sort of sample. So I would say if you've got a short film or short script, as you say, that's one thing. And then if you want to submit a character profile, I would say my recommendation is send it for something else so I can see that you've got another sort of project or another character in mind. Oh, Jack again. Are the 9 core courses all that we have to take? They are all that you have to take. Yes, they are the mandatory core courses, but you can take up to 2 electives on top of that that are not required, but yeah, like the name goes, elective. Any advice for someone who has a full-time job and would like to also enroll in the MFA program? You certainly can do it. We've had a few students who have had full-time jobs. The main thing is flexibility. If you have a job where you are 9 to 5 or noon to 6 all the time and it's inflexible, you won't know what your course scheduling is going to be until late in each term. And I've had this question before, can I have my schedule so I can tell my boss when I can and can't be at work, and I have to be there on Mondays. And there's a course that gets slotted in on Mondays because there's this mega system at the university that just slots in course times without any consideration for our personal lives. And when the course is set, the course is set. So flexibility is key. If you've got a part-time job, or if it's a full-time job, you have to make sure that you are able to tell your employer that these are the times when I am unavailable for class time. The second part of that is if your full-time job is so intense that you're unable to do the work in the MFA, that could be a problem. That's up for you to gauge because I don't know what the job is. Take it from someone like me who was working full-time and took their MFA many, many years ago, and I'm still recovering. So, Antonina, I want to submit a theater script. Which type of formatting would you prefer? Unlike screenwriting, I've encountered so many formats. That's a good point. Or is there a type of format, not the important, but the consistency of it? There's so many formats in playwriting. I'm not, that's not my forte. That's not my wheelhouse, playwriting, but I've read lots of plays, and I would say whatever format works and is readable, I would say, is the way to do it. You've got it written already. It might have been staged. If people were able to work with it and use it and read it and understand it, then fine. I would say that's probably the format you're going to use. Of course, writing for the screen is much more regimented, as we all know. So, yeah. That answers the question. I have someone recommending a book. Will has said, "Save the Cat." And I'm like, "Save your money." Kidding. That's a joke. I know. It's late. No, it's a good book. It's a good book. It's got lots of anecdotes about the industry and stuff like that. Truth. No, it's good. Recommend. I would say my short answer to what books should you read for script writing, the answer is all of them. It's impossible to do, but you're probably looking for, highlight the ones that are like, give me a list from most significant to worst. Oh, John Truby's got a great book out about genre that's really good that you should read as well. And also, like, look outside the script writing books too, because you probably want to read the hero's journey, which you probably have, but also read the heroine's journey by Maureen Murdoch. I mean, that's the counterpart to Joseph Campbell's work. So things like that. Don't limit yourself to just how-to screenwriting books. I would recommend those types of books too. Do you have an in-campus housing available? If so, can we enroll? No, not for the graduate program. We don't have any in-campus housing. Undergraduate programs have access. Undergraduates do have access to residence, but I think it's on I'm not even sure how the formula works, but they're very limited spaces. They're for undergrads. Housing in Toronto, I know it's difficult these days, to say the least. But the university does have housing services. You can consult with them and see if they can help you find a place to live. I had one international student come and use them and found a place through them. So it's a good resource, definitely. But do we have dedicated spaces? We don't. Sorry about that. Antonina, thank you. You're welcome. Lisa, what do you feel sets this program apart from other screenwriting programs? What makes it special? You must not have heard my answer earlier. Anyone want to remind me of what I said? The intensity of it in terms of the creative push that you're going to get, the ability to really dedicate and focus your life on making your script writing stronger, better. And the second part of that is nimbleness and being able to write in a variety of different forms and formats that you never would have done before. A lot of writers who come into the program, I will be a feature writer, they say to me in September of the first year. And then by the time they finished writing for visual media, they're like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to do this now as well. And it's nice to see that because we all have our preferences and we all have the forms that we want to write in, but this program will drag you kicking and screaming out of those, at least for periods of time where you'll have to write other things. And then you'll be equipped to do that because we really want to graduate people who can go into a setting where they might actually have a chance to get a, for lack of a better word, get a job writing something and have the person saying, well, we're not really looking for a feature writer. We're looking for someone who can do this. And you say, well, I have that. And they'll go, wow, that's impressive. So that's really a big part of why we call it not just script writing, but also story design, because as you know, the careers for writers are quite diverse and large, and the nimbleness is a really big part of it. I hope that answers your question. That's the last one. All right. I think that's it. We're slightly over time, but that's
Michael, I
okay.
think there's just one more in the regular chat
Oh, okay.
from Brishke.
Oh, hi, Brishke. Nice to see you hanging out. Studies in communications, political economy show my referee just write about my abilities as a student. There was no creative writing component to my studies. I would say, yeah, write about your abilities. Now, I know you, so I know that you've got other resources. I mean, with real world, etc., right? So if you have your references from academics there, and then you write about your experience with real world, etc., then I would say that would be good. Because you know, in communications, they can talk about your writing ability for communications, but you've also got experience in other areas that, you know, this is kind of a strange question to answer because I know Brishke. But yeah, does that help? The answer is, you know, yes, your referee could write about your abilities as a student. But if it's in communications, maybe about writing as well, maybe not script writing, but yeah. And then if your other referee is also academics, fine, but make sure your statement of interest refers to all the other things that you've done.
Okay. So
Outside of that.
can we get the labs that we've done, like the referees, like the CFC, real world? And
I
get,
would
like,
do that.
lab
Oh,
people? It's not
absolutely. Yeah.
undergraduate?
Yeah. I would say, yeah, I would say if you got someone from real world or CFC who would give you that's Canadian Film Center, everybody, who could give you a reference letter on top, like you got the academic one, you got the CFC or real world. Yeah. Those are good reference letters. Okay. Thanks for the question. All right. All good? Everybody's good? Everybody's
Michael, there's one more.
oh, one more?
Yes.
I don't see it.
Q&A session.
Oh, Q&A.
Q&A.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What are the biggest do's and don'ts of the program? The biggest do's are show up on time. That's a big one because you're probably going to be doing a table read of a scene and you're cast in it and you better get ready to do it. So be on time, be professional, because a lot of the classes we hit the ground running. Be on time, be professional. Be flexible, be open to critiques of your work. And also be open when you give notes to someone to being honest. So I would say be professional, be fair, but be truthful in all those areas. What are the don'ts of the program? Yeah, like I said, don't be late. You know, don't miss your deadlines. And don't not listen to Daniel and Elaine. That's a double negative, but you know, that's a do. I should say it's a do. Listen to Elaine and Daniel. And one of the don'ts is don't sit on your hands and reach out to people. A lot of students come in and think, well, you're my professor, so I'm going to talk to you and the other two in the fall term. And I'm like, why don't you talk to everybody? Why don't you just see who's out there and say, I want to grab coffee for 15 minutes. Let's go to the Catalyst, which is this great space where you can congregate and meet people. And I would say, you know, one of the don'ts is don't silo yourself inside this wonderful ecosystem that is the Creative School. Thank you all for your questions.
Do we have more questions? Last chance.
Last chance. Everyone said thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to see the applications, and I hope you do apply and reach out to us if you have any questions during the process. We're here.
Yeah, if you ever have questions later on, reach out program email. You can reach out to Michael directly as well. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah,
Take care, everybody.
Hopefully see you in the future. Thanks, Elaine and Daniel, for everything, for coordinating everything. Thank you. Bye.
thank you. Bye.